Last class, we were focusing on the control aspect of top positions. And again, our concept that we always like to come back to with each module is, for top control specifically, we don't want to always focus on being as heavy as possible. That's actually counterintuitive. The more you sit still and you simply prevent someone from moving, the less attack options you actually have. So if I just sit on top of you and I'm just making myself as heavy as possible and I make it as difficult as possible for you to move, you're not getting better at jiu-jitsu by doing that. All you're doing is you're restricting the amount of attacks you can now do, and you're restricting the amount of positions you can move to. So again, when it comes to top control, we're looking to access frames and levers on our opponent's body to force movement so that we can attack better positions, or in the case of what we're going to work on tonight, some submissions. Now, we don't have a whole lot of submissions that we go over in the 101 program because your priority as beginners is first and foremost controlling your body and then controlling someone else's body. After you are pretty proficient at that, then it's time to go over submissions. Top control, though, is a pretty nebulous concept like we were talking about. So we want to have some concrete things that we can do, right? Some concrete goals. So one of those goals can be to submit our opponent. A submission is just a technique where we put our opponent in a position where they are risking injuring themselves, which forces them to give up, okay? And they give up via a tap, so we're just going to tap out. So we're going to look at two different submissions tonight. I'd like to start, though, with the end of the submission. So I'd actually like to start with talking about breaking and choking mechanics, and then we're going to walk our way back and talk about entries to get into those submissions. So let's first start with one of the most bread and butter, like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu submissions of all time, the Americana. All right, so coach is going to be on his back. Okay, I'll rotate this way. All right, guys, so again, we're not worrying about how we're attacking the Americana right now. We're going to talk about entries in a little bit. I'd like to just talk about the breaking mechanics and how to actually submit somebody using this technique. I'll demonstrate the Americana first. So the Americana is a bent arm lock. We also have something called a kimura, and a kimura is the opposite side. A kimura goes this way, and Americana goes this way. We're attacking the rotator cuff of the shoulder. So the reason that an Americana works is because we're putting the shoulder in a position where it's not able to rotate very far, and we're forcing it past the point of rotation. So again, let's just talk about how to attack and actually finish the submission. We want to have a 2-on-1 grip on our opponent's arm, and we want their arm to be making the shape of an L. Okay? I have one hand on the wrist, one hand on the forearm with stiff arms. I want to make sure that I'm controlling with all 5 fingers on top, so I'm utilizing hook grips as opposed to C grips. C grips allows people to pull their arms out. Okay? Hook grips are better for pinning limbs because now there's no space that he can actually retract the arm. So from here, I'm going to put one elbow by his ear, and I'm going to hold on to his wrist. My other hand, however, is going to slide underneath with a palm-up grip so I can start to lift his elbow with my fingers as I grab my own wrist. This is now what we call a figure 4 grip. My hands are in a figure 4 position. Now, from here to finish, I'm going to keep my wrists in a mountain formation. So I want mountains with my wrists as opposed to valleys. So I'm keeping my wrists flexed and rolled. I'm going to start to pull his elbow down to his hip bone first. So again, I'm not trying to wrench on anything. If you're attacking a submission and you crank it, you're not showing good technique. You're showing that you're trying to injure your opponent. That's never your goal in jiu-jitsu. Your goal in jiu-jitsu is to fight injuries. Don't let injuries occur. Focus on keeping your opponent safe, and then the person on the bottom should be ready to tap so that they don't get injured. Okay, so again, we're here. I'm going to pull his hand down. This locks his shoulder in place, and now as I start to lift his elbow, it makes it a very simple tap. Again, as I lift, I'm trying to pull his hand down towards his feet, like I'm trying to push his hand towards his back. Again, this is attacking the rotator cuff, so please use control. Never crank it. We're just going very slow. Lock it in and pull. Okay? So what I'd like you guys to do is try this 2 times, 1 on each side. Okay? So I'm just going to go here, 1, and 2. Okay, again, this is probably one of the most basic submissions that you are shown, and there's a reason for that. It's really not that great of a submission. it kind of has a very low success rate, but it's something you should know how to do because it can have its uses. Okay, guys? So I'll show one more time. We'll rotate. Again, we're just starting from the mount. Don't worry about, how to separate their arms and all that. We're just going to push the arm down. Make an L, elbow by their ear, slide the hand under and grab the wrist. Pull the elbow back, and now as I lift, I'm going to pretend like his hand is a paintbrush. I'm going to drag that hand down south. Nice and controlled. Any questions on this? All right, let's go. 1, 2. So I find that it's actually really beneficial to start learning submissions with the braking mechanics first, because you're always going to apply the submission, and then learning different ways to enter into the submission is just going to help reinforce what you already know at the end. Okay, so we want to have a good foundation, right? And the foundation is, how do we actually submit somebody? So we're going to now talk about 2 different types of entries. Okay, we're going to talk about the sneaky entry and the direct entry, and we're going to do that from 2 different positions. Okay, so you're going to have a lot of great options to use. So again, we're going to start from the side mount first. We demonstrated the Americana from the mount. It works the exact same way from the side mount. Okay, so just for clarity here, I can do the exact same submission from the side mount. Nothing's different. However, we can set up the Americana a couple different ways here. The first one is just going to be a very direct approach. So let's say I have my good side mount position, and my partner is providing me with a frame underneath my chin. This is very common. He's using this frame to start to drive my weight off. What we can do is we can take out the crossface, and we can start to push his hand down to the mat, which can immediately feed into the Americana. And then, same thing, I pull his elbow to his rib cage, and there's your finish. Very direct approach here, okay? And this is assuming that our opponent's kind of slipping, right? They're not just gonna, most of the time, they won't just let you do this. But it happens, right? Sometimes we have brain farts and things unfortunately happen like that. So again, he's utilizing this as a frame, so I can bring my hand out from underneath and immediately grab the figure 4 grip. We can also have a sneakier setup as well. I can maintain the crossface and use the other hand to push it down. Now I can feed this to the crossface arm. And now once I feed this to the crossface arm, I'm actually just going to loop it over his head. And now here we are in the Americana. Okay, so one more time for the sneaky variation. It can start the same way. He's framing my chin. Right, I'm going to keep a good crossface so that way he can't turn into me. I have broken posture. I'm going to start to drive this wrist down. Obviously, and this is one of the fallbacks of the Americana, it helps to be stronger than your partner with this. It just does, honestly. That's why this is not a super high effective technique, but it's great for people who maybe don't really know what they're doing, right? If I'm rolling with someone and this person doesn't really know what's going on, it's going to be an easy one to catch them with. Again, I pin this, and then I feed it to the underhook hand. Now, here's the sneaky aspect. He doesn't really think about what's happening, perhaps, right? Because I'm not overtly attacking the Americana until I loop it over the head and I put the bag. I call that putting the bag over someone's head. So the bag in this case is my forearm here. And then I have my Americana grip. Stay low, provide limited lever control for your partner, right? I don't want them to push on my face, and then finish the Americana. Additionally, we can attack from the mount. This is a far safer position to attack the Americana because I already have a very dominant position. Your first option is kind of like the thing that you always see people show when they teach Americanas. We're gonna go 2-on-1 on one arm, our hips come up, and we're gonna stiff arm and push their arm all the way down to the mat. This is essentially what you guys were practicing before. Finish the exact same way. Elbow to the mat, sneak in, and there's your Americana. Very simple. Again, 2-on-1. I want to use my weight as much as possible, right? So I don't want to use arm strength. So try to get your hips involved and really peel it down. Now we do also have a sneaky variation we can do from the mount as well, and I'll let you guys practice that. Let's assume that I was doing a great mount transition. So I was inside mount and I did a really good mount transition. And we end up here with the crossface. I can again pin this down and loop it over his head the same way we did for the side mount variation. Okay, so again, one more time. Perhaps I'm getting a great transition, creating open lever control here. Now I have his hand floating. I can pin and feed, loop it over, and there's your Americana. So again, here are a couple really good entries, guys, from 2 different positions. I'll go over each one more time, and then we'll go out and start playing with them, okay? So let's start from the side mount. So first we have our direct entry. Okay, next we have our sneaky entry. And now for the mount, we have our direct entry. And then we have the sneaky entry, which would start us from the side mount. We work our mount transition, and then we attack the sneaky entry here. Alrighty, guys? Any questions on your entries to the Americana? All right, let's get it going. 1, 2.